the default in my brain was, I don't care what happens to me. I am winning this thing, and I am not going to die. I am not. It just was so in me, every fiber of my being.
Hi, I'm Angélique Letizia, a writer, director, and creator of the Call Cut Method. It's a tool to shift your frequency, rewrite your inner script, and realign you with the energy of your highest potential. This podcast is your behind-the-scenes pass to alchemizing that energy. So if you're ready to interrupt the script, reclaim your power, and write your story that you were actually born to live, you're in the right place.
My guest today is Sharon Spear, a working actress whose life became a race against time when she was diagnosed with a rare liver disease. After years of struggle, setbacks, and near-death moments, she received a life-saving transplant at Mount Sinai. Through it all, Sharon never wavered in her belief that she would survive. Today, she shares her journey of fear, faith, and the miracle of a second chance at life.
Let's just get right into it. Before you tell your story, though, tell people a little bit about yourself, because you are an incredibly talented actress and comedian, and you're very, very funny. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then, of course, we'll go into this incredible story of survival that is just blew me away.
Sure. My name is Sharon Spear. I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Number 11 of 13 kids, Irish family, big surprise there. And I moved to Boston after college. I went to Southern Connecticut, got a degree in speech communications, but I always kind of felt like I belonged in the entertainment world. Um, I went to Boston and started working as an executive assistant and worked my way up to different positions in different industries like advertising, investment consulting, TV, and I loved what I did. I, in addition to being the organizer and event planner, I was the administrative, the right-hand person to the bigwigs. I loved my job, but there was a secret inside of me that I just really wanted to make people laugh, and that always lives within me. So when I turned about 20 years ago, when I turned one of those big ages, one of those big F ages, I said, what am I doing with my life? So I started taking acting classes, and I got bit by that bug. And I started with films, student films at Emerson College and Harvard, and that's how I got my start. And then in 2007, I moved to New York to pursue an acting career. And I tried a little bit, and then I had to go back to corporate and worked in advertising. And I loved what I did, but I knew there was something else. I was generally a very healthy person. Always went to the gym, exercise, maybe got a cold once a year. In 2010, I started getting itching all over my body, like a crazy animal gorilla, basically. And I had abdominal pain, but I didn't know what it was. So I said, something's wrong, and I have to go to the doctor. But I waited a bit because I don't know, I just didn't make it a priority. I went to a dermatologist, and I said, I have this itching that's driving me crazy. He goes, oh, that's nothing. That's just, I'll give you some ointment for that. And I knew that it was wrong. And I listened to my gut instinct, and I said, there's something wrong here because I have abdominal pain. I went to a gastro, and he took blood, and he came back to me. He said, Sharon, I don't know if you have this disease, but it looks like it based on your numbers. There are certain numbers in your blood, like it's called alkaline phosphatase, these numbers, and these numbers are skyrocketed. Say the number is supposed to be 25, it was maybe 800 or 1,000. And he said, the name of this disease is primary biliary cirrhosis. And I was just like, what? What is that? And you hear cirrhosis, and you're like, okay, alcohol. That's what you would immediately think anyone would. And I said, I'm a social drinker, but I'm not someone who drinks every day. And he said, well, what is this disease? I said, well, let's have you get it confirmed. I went to a liver specialist. I went in his office. He looked at my neck, and I had all red blotches all over my neck was another symptom that I had, physical symptom. In addition to being tired, ugh, that was another thing. And he said, "Show me the palms of your hands." I showed him my palms, and these were very red. And he said, "You have this disease." And before I even took a biopsy. So I was like, "What? What does this mean? I don't even know what this is. I never even heard of it." He said, "There's no cause, there's no cure. It's not alcohol related. We don't know where it comes from, but you will have to get a liver transplant in 9 to 15 years, no matter what." And I was like, "What?" I was shocked. I didn't, and well, by the way, he did do the liver biopsy and it said that I was in stage 4 of this disease. So that was like, "What? I never even heard of this disease. You're telling me this?" I didn't know what it meant. It's a silent disease that creeps up on you. So I probably had it for years, but didn't know. And then when it's stage 4, your liver is severely scarred and you have to have a transplant in the future or you're not going to make it. It's so weird when you're given a disease, it's not genetic. There's no cause and there's no cure. Yeah. So it's so weird. So I was like, what does this mean for me? How will I don't even know what to do what do I do? So I kept it to myself. I only told my mother and a friend because I didn't want to worry my family. I didn't want to be a bother. And it wasn't that I was crippled in pain, because if you looked at me from the outside, you would say, "Oh, she's healthy." You would never guess I was sick because it's going on the inside. What I'd like to say too is the disease in a nutshell is your bile ducts or your liver. So it's like, when you make spaghetti and you drain the water and it comes out of the colander and there's holes in there. That's what your liver does. It has these bile ducts. Well, when you don't have the bile ducts, all the toxins and anything in your body don't have anywhere to get out. So you're trapped in your stomach with these toxins. And that's the problem. Your body is attacking itself. So it's doing the opposite of what it's supposed to do. So that's actually what the disease is for any of those folks that wonder, "Well, what is this disease?" Because I didn't know what it was. And, it was shocking.
When you are an actor, when you are somebody that is in a
Yes,
high stress sort of job or career or passion,
yes,
would you say that sometimes you don't always recognize these symptoms as being anything outside of stress?
absolutely. Exactly, and I found that even with my jobs, you get used to a certain rhythm, of your body, and your body gets actually numb to your schedule. So that's why some jobs, if they can make you sick. Some jobs, and you don't even know it because it's so, had been working. No, you work weekends, you come in early, you don't take lunches, I had that type of job, high stress jobs, that somehow you figure out a way. We all figure out a way how to do it. It could run us down, but that's how I chose to deal with it. And I just said, what do I have to do? Like, there's certain foods that you can eat better, but also knowing, as the doctor said, you're going to need a transplant no matter what in 9 to 10 years. But I didn't pay any attention to that. I said, "No, that's not gonna happen to me." That's what that's what I said to myself, because that was so far away from who I am. That doesn't go with my personality, sorry. I know that there's a certain type of person that, "Oh, yeah, that person would get one." I was like, "No, that I'm too vibrant and alive of a person to need that. No, no, no. I'm gonna beat this thing. Whatever it is, I don't know what you are. I don't know what's going inside of me, but that is not happening to me." And that is
Mind.
my mindset. It was my mind. In fact, I told my doctors, my mindset is gonna cure me. I said, the default in the back of my head, oh no. this Irish girl is fighting this thing
all the way.
because that's not gonna happen to
And
me.
that's what I love about this story. And obviously, we're going to get into it because there's a huge point here about struggle and about the way we see things. It's not necessarily that we maybe avoid it, but it's how we come through it. And this is
100%.
why I feel your story is so incredible. And obviously, we're getting there, is because
Yeah.
this piece right here, and I want people to really hone in on this because sometimes by the end they forget. This is the piece that sets off everything else that ultimately happens. It was this absolute will to live. This isn't going to be me. And this
Yes.
piece actually, in my opinion, after hearing your story, is what makes this story so incredible. I don't want to ruin it, so let's keep going.
Oh, no, that you bring up such an important point because anyone who is ill of any kind, of any level, whether it's a liver, a kidney, it's cancer, anything, we have a relationship with that. We have a relationship as an individual with our disease. How are we going to treat it? How are we going to approach this thing that is happening to me? At the end of the day, I hate people who say that, but at the end, at the end of the evening, right? We're alone with our
Yes.
disease, right? We can have our doctors who I love at Mount Sinai who had wonderful treatment. We have wonderful supportive friends and family. We have all that to help us. But really, it's me and you, PBC.
It's arguably the most intimate relationship one may ever have is with a disease, whether it's physical or mental, because man, are you right? You don't have a minute away from it. It is always, always there, looming in your space, in your mental space, in your physical space. Mine was panic anxiety, but it's the same feeling. Like it's very isolating regardless of how many people you have around you that are here to help you and they're going to work and they do and they absolutely do. But at the end of the day, I love that you said that because that is something that I feel a lot of people struggle with and I don't think they have the words for it.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's like it's a relationship just like something else. And I also want to say you are the CEO of your health. If you're ill, you listen to your gut. I
Your
knew it.
intuition.
Something was wrong. Yes, we know ourselves, we know our bodies, we feel things. So listen to yourself, folks. Listen to yourself. Your instinct is
Yes,
right.
yes. So, so you get this diagnosis, and now you have gone through all of this to research it and figure it out. And what happens?
Throughout these many years, I did have episodes as far as physically, I would get very dizzy and I thought I was going to faint. I had to sit down, get something to drink, and eat something, even if I ate before I went out. So I always carried water with me and something to eat, and I would be out like no good for 4 hours. So during the course of those several years, it probably happened maybe 30 or 40 times. Never actually really found out why. I would ask my doctors, "Well, I don't know, it could be a draw," it's just there's a lot of unknown things that you don't have an answer for, so you just say, "Okay, what do I have to do? What do I have to do? Okay, I gotta bring water with me, I gotta go through that. I'm not gonna die from those things, but it blows." But I went through that. 2018, I hurt my back. I went to a chiropractor, and she said, "I'll just give you some naproxen for that." I said, can I take it with my liver pills?" "Sure," she says. So I went home, took the pills. The next day I wake up, I'm like, something's real wrong. I went to the bathroom and I vomited blood all over the place. And I was like, oh, this is not good because I had read in the literature that this disease, it affects your, like, esophagus and something called varices, and it said, "If you ever throw up blood and it's like coffee grounds, you gotta get to the ER immediately." So, I went to the hospital, I went to ICU, and it was at that time I had to tell my family that I was sick. like my other members of my family. My mother had already, passed at that time, but I had to tell my family and friends that I was ill, and I know they were upset with me, like, "Why didn't you tell us? Like, we would've supported you," and I just said, "It's just what I chose, I didn't wanna bother you," and I think they were disappointed, but that's what I chose to do. That's what I chose to do, and I don't regret it. I'm sorry I hurt their feelings, but that was me. So I recovered from that, and COVID rolls around, and I was fine, and I hadn't gone to see my doctor, because of COVID, and I just kind of I was feeling okay, and I had no appointments to meet, and then 2021 rolled around, and then in the beginning of the year, my stomach started growing, gigantic. I mean, pregnant, like 9 months pregnant, and I was like, "Whoa, something's really wrong here. Really wrong. I'm not having a baby." Um, and I said, "I gotta make an appointment to see my doctor. It doesn't look good," but it wasn't actually really told exactly from this particular doctor. I got another doctor anyway, and, I'm glad I did that. Very happy I did that, and that happens to people sometimes. I don't wanna say anyone, if you're not happy with a doctor or whoever, get someone else.
Yeah, you have to advocate for your health.
Advocate for your health. You don't you Yeah, I'm one of those people, "Oh, no, I just go there, a few times a year." She's a good doctor. She very good doctor, clinical, knows her stuff, but not the right match for me after at
Yeah.
that news.
People have to be a vibrational match for you in everything, not just,
Exactly.
lovers or coworkers, everything. People who are taking care of your mind, your body, your spirit, all have to be a vibrational match. So again, I feel on
100%.
your journey, this is another little God wink.
Oh, it's definitely. And so I chose a doctor who I had known who was working I was working with the clinical trials, Dr. Joseph Oden. I'll mention his name because I adore him. Is a wonderful, knowledgeable doctor and also has a huge sense of
Yeah.
humor. And
Yes,
that's
that's
right,
the
that's my
match.
style, okay? That's me. You've gotta be funny if you're gonna take care of me.
Yes.
Okay? You gotta be good at what you do,
Right.
but please have a sense of humor. Because I mean, come on, man, this is life. You have to, I crack jokes and stuff about this. So, Dr. Owen says to me, "Well, you're at end stage liver disease." This is in 2021, in the summer of 2021 of July, and I said, "Well, what does that mean?" Like, and he goes, "Well, if you need a liver, and if you don't get one." I mean, didn't have to say. He didn't have to say, "You're gonna die if you don't get one." And he mentioned that I would be a good candidate for, a live donor. So for those folks out there that don't know, if you need a liver, you either get it from a deceased donor, and it's difficult to get that because not enough people are on a donor list. The other choice is you get a live donor. A live donor, it could be someone you know or someone you don't know. And, what happens as far as physically is there's all kinds of tests that have to be done, but if someone is interested in becoming a donor for someone what happens is they operate on that person, go in them and take up to 60% of their liver, then they would come in my liver, throw mine in the crapper, and then and then their liver and put it in me, and both of our livers
Oh,
regenerate in
wow.
12 weeks. Which is Yeah, so the liver is the only organ that regenerates, which is pretty, like, amazing.
So your liver and the other liver, or whatever piece of your liver is still healthy, is that pretty much what
Well,
they do? Or
mine
they
was
completely,
completely get rid of mine.
yours is gone.
Mine is completely crap.
So they take the new one.
So they take a piece of the other one, of whom the person is, if it's a live person, right? So they would open up that live person, well, they would be sedated, and then they would take a portion of their liver. Then they would open me up, take my liver out, and put their liver in mine, and then that
Oh, Wow. And then that would regenerate into
Then that's
a
regenerate. And
full
then,
liver.
yes, and so both of ours are gonna be well, that's an amazing, amazing, you can't even, it's just so
You
unbelievable that
Well, this is what I feel with the human body. It can regenerate everything. Absolutely everything. And we know the liver,
yeah.
you've explained this, but it can build new neural pathways. It can, I hate to say this because people are going to be mad, but you can reverse age yourself. You can
Oh, yeah.
fix, there's so many things. I mean, think about it. Somebody says, oh, the liver can regenerate, right? And everybody's like, okay, cool. And the liver regenerates. Oh, but the heart can't regenerate. And then, "Bleh," you know, but if we were like, oh, the heart can regenerate too, all of a sudden people would be like, oh my God, I just grew a heart. So, you know, there is some very interesting, I don't know enough to really go that deep into it, but I do feel this is the human body is a machine we only know this much about.
Oh, God, yeah. And the liver itself roughly has about 500 functions. We can't even comprehend it, what it does and how important it is to have a healthy one.
In your particular case, you needed a live donor.
Well, what my doctors told me that was I would be the best candidate for a live donor, and the reason being was it's just difficult to get a deceased donor. There's not enough people that are organ donors. So in my particular situation, they suggested that was the best thing. So that's a whole other process. October and November of 2021, both months I got deathly ill. Like had to go to the hospital for 2 weeks. In November, I got very, very ill. I had, spontaneous peritonitis. What that is basically the fluid in your stomach, again, I'm looking like I'm 9 months pregnant, is severely poisoned. So, it was bittersweet because as a result of the being so ill, I was able to get on the donor the list. I had to also inform people, that people didn't know that I was ill. And I had to ask people. I put a note, on Facebook asking people about if they could consider donating after liver to me. I really didn't wanna do it, but I had to figure out a way to live, right? I didn't really wanna do that, but I had to, so people were shocked that didn't know that I was ill because once again, I mean, I was emaciated. Like, my stomach was out to here. I didn't even realize how sick I was. I knew I was sick, right? I knew I was sick. I knew I could die. I logically understood that, but I didn't believe it. Like I just like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I have the evidence right here. My arms are like toothpicks. My face is jaundiced, but I still don't believe you. But I'm still not gonna die. I don't get what you're saying. That was just my mind. I and Let me also add on top of this disease, what happens is because the fluid was gigantic, you get a lot of ammonia in your blood. So the stomach says, I don't know where to go with all this fluid. So we're going to go up here. We're going to go up here and we're going to mess with your head. So, in addition to physically being emaciated, tired, and your brain is affected. It's something called hepatic encephalopathy, and short-term HE, as they refer to it, that liver patients have where you're fuzzy, you can't make decisions. I didn't really even know I had it until after where, like, my friend said to me, "Sharon, you do know you were a little," you know I go, "Well, what do you mean?" She goes, "I don't know, but something was not right." So, it was a combination. I mean, I guess if folks wanna think, like, if you were given like, you were gonna die, possibly, but your brain is a little fuzzy, you might die, but you kinda have to have a positive attitude.
Yeah.
How does one
Navigate it.
should I fill up my am I gonna have to I have to fill out my will now? Or and figure out, like, am I gonna get a plot or am I gonna be cremated? But gotta keep going. I mean, I'm just saying, like, the reality
Yeah.
of what is going on physically and mentally. But
Mhm.
again, as I said, the default in my brain was, "I don't care what happens to me. I am winning this thing, and I am not gonna die. I am not." It just was so in me, every fiber of my being said that to me, even though I was so, so sick. I found out my brother, Jamie, who I adore and wanted to be a donor so badly and went through all the tests. You have to go through tests like they ask you questions like, okay, if you give part of your liver and she doesn't make it, are you going to be able to handle that? All psychological tests you go through. You have to be healthy. You can't be a diabetic. You can't be a drinker. You have to be healthy. In a perfect world, as someone that's young, but I mean, I think go up to maybe 60, you could be as far as age. There's plenty of tests, but he was very healthy, had a healthy liver, passed all the tests, but ultimately, in the end, the surgeon said it would be a surgical nightmare the way his liver was, I guess, connected, and mine just wouldn't have made sense. So he felt horrible. I would go, "Gene, it's all right. Well, I'll figure something out. I'll keep going." He felt worse than I did because I just thought, "No, I'm fighting. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out." And then one day, I just said, "My doctors are wrong. I am going to get a liver, and it is going to be from a deceased donor." I just had a feeling. I can't explain it. It all came over me, and I just said, I'm gonna have fun with this. I'm gonna pick the day that I'm gonna get a liver." All right. I said, "Well, if I get a liver, I'm not doing it in the summer. No, it's not gonna happen in the summer." I said, "No, it's gonna happen in January." hmm And I said, "All right, it's year 2022. It's January 22nd. Catch 22." That's what I said. I told my friends. I said, "Oh, it's gonna happen." They're like, "Okay, all right." You know, I think they were just, going along with me because they knew who I am and that I'm that way. But I also do have, like, sometimes I have hunches about things and feelings and instincts and, that type of thing. Well, that day came, January 22nd, 2022. I was so tired that day, exhausted. Every day I'm like, you're exhausted. And when I had met with my surgeon, he said, "Sharon, just keep your positive attitude." And, I was that way the whole time. And I didn't even know I was different than other patients because that's just who I am. Very positive. I just feel like you're hurting yourself if you doom and gloom it. I'm not saying don't ever feel that. You're not gonna have a 100% positive attitude every single day when some days you're in, agony with pain. Just have it be your default and you could be okay with it 70% of the time and feel your feels and punch the pillow and get mad and get that out and reset and go back to that. That's just a point I wanna make. Anyway, so January 22nd rolls around. I talked to my friend Jane on the phone, just checking in on me, and I was so tired, and it was around 5 o'clock that day. The phone rang, and I was, "Oh, I'm gonna answer that. So tired, I can't even answer the phone." Anyway, so I better answer that, and I hear, "Sharon, this is Marin. Can you get to Mount Sinai in 45 minutes? Because we might have a liver for you." And I was like, "Wha what?" Oh my god. I was like, What's going on? What?" And she goes, "Well, there's a woman, and she's 45 years old, and she hasn't passed away yet, but it's likely she will. And, we tried calling other people, but one person wasn't available, one person was too afraid, one was out of town, and so I was just like, "What do I bring? What do I do?" I didn't because "Just bring your cell phone and a charger." So I said, "All right." And I, got off the phone, and I was like, "Well, I gotta take a 2-minute shower at least," because I was a mess. And you know what, Angelique? All of a sudden, like, my parents are passed, and I have, like, several siblings that are not here anymore. and I I felt them, clapping for me, and I I said, "Oh, they're rooting for me. They're rooting for me." And then I just had a split second, I went, "Wait a minute, wait a minute. Are they rooting for me because they wanna get better or because I'm gonna go visit them?" Well, I had that split second, like, my whole journey of all this, right? And the day I find out I might have a chance in life is the day that I went, "Oh god, it could go completely the other way." Right? It was just a thing that came over me, and then I just kind of, "No, no, no." I was like, "No, I gotta take a shower and get out of here, man." Uh, so so I took a shower and I said, "Oh my god, this is happening to me." I didn't have any time to call my family, I just had to make the decision. I called an Uber, I took a journal, my charger, it's a d some dental floss, and I'm like, "Here I go." I got an Uber, I'm like, "This is a life and death situation, hurry." You know, "Okay, okay, I gotta go. I gotta go." "Ooh," and he was like, "Oh, okay." And, I remember I was in the car and I called my brother Jamie up. I said, I was calm. I said, "Oh, hi, Jamie. How you doing?" "Oh, good. How are you? What's going on?" And I said, "Oh, well, I just want to let you know that I'm going to Mount Sinai because they might have a liver for me." He goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh my God. You want me to, what do I do?" I go, "It's all right, Jamie. I'm going to the hospital now." Anyway, I got to the hospital and I was calm. And they were waiting for me in the car. Remember, I had gotten calls from my liver coordinator, Marin, said, "Miss Spear, where are you?" Because they have to get their whole surgery team together. I found out later, she got that call and she had to place that liver in 2 hours. And that's a small amount of time to get a group of all the surgeons there, the anesthesia, everybody to come that Saturday night. I was very calm. I don't know why. I That's the way I felt. I just felt this is supposed to happen and this is here I go. So, uh, we had found out that that woman had passed and, I was ready to go in the room. And I looked in the room and I saw this big room and I was still joking around with the people and I said, "I want a picture of it. I want a picture of my liver." Uh, anyway, so that was Saturday, January 22nd, 2022. I went in and I woke up on Thursday.
Wow.
What happened was they tried to operate on me and it wasn't working out. I think I was bleeding too much. So the doctors that evening had to call my brother Jamie and say, We have to stop the operation because well, they said like oozing." So I think I was bleeding too much. And so now they're in Connecticut. So, I hate that I had to have to put them through all this too. I just, very difficult. Can't imagine, being on the other end of it. I was just going through it, but they're the receiver of all this. And so they had to put me in a coma, a medically induced coma, for a few days. And they reoperated a few days later to connect the bile ducts. And I woke up on a Thursday and my brother was there and I had no idea I had a liver transplant. I thought I was in a mental institution. Okay. I know this sounds weird.
No, it sounds right because
I was
you were in that coma.
terrified. I was petrified. I didn't know where I was. I thought I was in Russia and they were stealing my organs. This is how wacko. First of all, laugh because it's crazy. It's mental.
No,
But I knew what was
no.
going on.
Well, I see how you would definitely think you were going crazy. But the interesting part is even general anesthesia for an extended amount of time can make people go wacky when they come out. They're hallucinating, they're talking in well, not their sleep, they're not even conscious. You were in a medically induced coma. So you had so much in your system I am not surprised at all that that you didn't wake up thinking you were Marilyn or Elvis, you know?
Oh, I have stories. My family was like, "Okay, she got a new liver, but she's mental. She's gonna be wacko the rest of her life. What have we done?" Because I was that way for, like, 3 weeks.
Oh God, it takes days to so I had one surgery, right? Very minimal. It was, I think, 2 hours. Days for it to leave my body, the anesthesia, right?
Oh
Days.
god.
Can you imagine if it was
Oh
what
my
you
god.
went through, where consistently, I mean, they're keeping you alive.
I didn't know this was a normal thing. I thought my hands were made out of webs, my legs were like elephants. I thought John F. Kennedy was living on my finger. I mean, this is like, I swear to God, it's so crazy. I mean, I can laugh about it now, but I really thought that.
I believe it.
Here's the winner. Well, here's the winner. One of the funniest things that happened, I'll never forget it. I'm in the ICU. And all of a sudden, I feel someone massaging my calves, and it felt great. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know who you are." I said it out loud. I said, "I don't know who you are, but thank you so much." Now, I didn't know. Do you know
The
this? Do
cuffs.
you know that normal ICU bed has something that normally massages your legs? Because that's what I didn't know that.
I I wouldn't have known that they had it in a bed, but I
I
do
didn't know
know
that.
they put it on your like when you're going to surgery, right? They'll put it on your calves to massage your calves to keep the blood flow. But
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
didn't
know
know
that
that,
was
but
that.
let me tell you, that was the best thing. Oh my god, I have some relief because I was so sick. I was so even after the transplant, because really my body was so emaciated and in horrible shape that the actual transplant itself was too much for my body to handle. So that's kinda why they had to stop the operation, put me at this, because I was so emaciated that I was only functioning on, like a third of my body was gone, and I was only functioning on a 2/3, like, throughout that whole year, like, I wasn't even a real person. Crazy, but that's what happened, and I was very ill, and I almost didn't make it even, uh oh, and I got COVID, so, that same week, I got COVID, so my family is, calling every day, "How is she?" Before they could see me, because the COVID was going on, and I had COVID in addition to the transplants. But that was no big that was like a paper cut compared to everything else. When I did finally wake up, they said, like, "She did wake up, but she's not there." You know? I'd just be like I was like a zombie, that's what happened initially, and then it was so painful. I mean, I had good days, I had bad days. There were days, Angélique, I was so weak. I I I was like an old lady. Yeah, I couldn't walk. I couldn't eat. Someone had to be spoon-fed, and I was wacko on top of it. And I had my blood cell count went up, my kidneys were off. It was bad, and there were days all I could do was stare at a wall for hours, and that was the only comfort I could find because I just couldn't you can't watch TV, you just can't. You can't watch TV, you can't read a you're so sick, and but still, I tell you, on the back of my mind, even despite all this, I said, "Oh, no, I ugh, I gotta get out of this." I'll be honest with you, there were days. So I don't know if I could do this. Was this worth it? I had days like that, I'll admit it, because it's so painful. Not only will I say it's painful physically for me, now, no, I wanna make a point that there's other people, they go in one day, the next day they're walking around, they're out 4 days. Everyone has a different experience. And I highly want to encourage anyone that if someone has the opportunity to get a liver transplant, please do it. You have another chance at life. So I don't want to say it's all bad, because it was amazing. It was a miracle. It was horrible. It was wonderful. It was anything you can imagine. The biggest challenge I had, I was so emotional knowing, oh my God, I am alive because someone else died. I was sobbing every day. Couldn't handle it. That why do I get to live and someone else, some other woman, I don't know anything about her. She died, and I just couldn't handle it. I just felt horrible. On top of being ill and all this other stuff, that was the biggie. And I talked to my doctor because I was sobbing. He goes, Sharon, the best thing you can do is honor your donor and lead a good life. And I heard that, and that was the thing that made me feel better, you know? It was the thing I needed to hear to say, I will do that. And I did, and I do to this day, every day of my life. I thank my donor. I thank God when I wake up that I am alive, because I would not be if that woman, her mother, Patricia, who I adore, and I met, by the way, later, if she didn't make that decision to give her daughters lives, I would not be the recipient of that, and I would not be here. I have a feeling I really didn't have much time left. The doctors would never say, because I asked Michael, "Well, what do you mean end stage? Like, do I have, like, a month or, like, 6 months? Or you like, could you give me some time here? Can you give me some?" And they're like, "We just don't know, and plus they really don't know how bad your liver is until they open you up." There's something called a MELD score that people have in livers, and, like, a high one is, say, 45, for example. And you get a score, and that kinda says, "Well, if you're 45, like, you're gonna die in an hour," or whatever. It's very bad. My MELD score, was only 14. But here's the thing, my doctor said, "Even though your MELD score is that, when we open you up, it could be way worse." And I think that's what happened in my situation. I was very ill, but I think it was even worse than what they thought, because my doctor, when he came in to see me, he just went, You gave us hell." I was like, "Oh my God." And I was just like, "Oh," I didn't know, because I was just, like, in another universe, and I was like, "Oh," I go, "Well, how bad was it? Or how much time?" And he didn't say one word, and I just knew, wow, wow, I made it just like that. I was saved, honest. It was such a revealing moment, like, the silence said so much to me, and just how lucky.
What I love about this is when, for somebody who, which you are, someone who has walked a spiritual path and is really looking at things in life from a different perspective. And your story really does demonstrate how, A, we're all connected. And I want to get to this donor conversation because there's a really important piece about this donor and then the relationship you then developed later. But we are all connected, and what we look like, where we come from, none of that really matters. And when we're dealing with human to human interaction, all those lines, all those separations, all those differences, they disappear. And we're literally just human to human showing up, in in this case, she came to rescue you,
She did.
and you took the call. I mean, that's it. What
Yeah.
I love about this is there were other people
Yes.
before you who
Yes.
did not answer the call.
Yes.
You answered the call. You showed up. You you went through a really hard recovery,
Yes, I did.
but you live with the grace of gratitude because you know, and you knew in your heart, you knew you were going to live.
Yes.
And you know that this woman's story became yours because without her liver, your story would have ended.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I want you to definitely tell us about the donor because
Oh, yeah.
that part of it was so incredible to me. And I just love this part of the story.
Yeah, this is, my second miracle. I really am a walking miracle. There's no denying that. I wanna say that it's very difficult on both ends for the person receiving the organ and the family. We're allowed to write a letter, to the family, not knowing who I'm sending it to, but me, I had to send a letter. Like, imagine someone giving you a gift of life, because some people, not all people do because they can't handle it. They can't do it. It does take a while, but I was aching to write a letter to tell that family how grateful I was to them every day in my life. And I showed them pictures of what I look like before and after. 'Cause I wanted to have them see a real person. Look what I look like before, and because of you made that decision about your daughter, that I have a life. I wrote letters, 3 or 4 letters, and I was told by many people it's really hard for the family, and you may have to accept that you may not hear from them. I heard that. I said, "No, they're wrong." Once again, they're wrong. I know that I will meet them. I'm not giving up.
And you have a great track record at
I
this
had a good
point.
track record. Yeah, right. I got 2 of them. Maybe number 3. I don't know. There's a wonderful organization called Live On, and they're the coordinator between myself and the other family. And I got a call from them that said, your donor about 2 years after these 3 letters saying, "Your donor family wants to meet you." It was my second miracle. I couldn't believe it. So what I found out about this family, this was a woman was 45 years old. She was a mother of 8, a grandmother of 2. It was a surprise for their family, in this very difficult situation. Like, they found out their daughter was in the hospital and didn't really know what was going on, and then they went and she was brain dead, and the mother had to make a decision, and the mother was shocked, devastated, her children devastated. They actually weren't sure if they wanted to, her own kids weren't sure, because I understand not being able to make a decision like that, because you can't even accept your mother out of the blue is dying over what I don't even know. They couldn't make a decision, and then the mother thought of who this person was. Her name was Zanquetta Harris, also known as Missy. She was a hairdresser. She did hair. She's from Long Island. She had a lot of energy and pep, life at the party. She was religious and spirited, motivated people. In some respects, a lot like me. She loved to dance. I love to dance. You know, she always wanted to have fun. Patricia, the mom, said, "You know what? Missy would want to do that because she was a giver." So that's how the mother decided, "No, I do want to." So she gave a liver and each kidney. And I said, "I have to meet this family." And so I arranged to have an in person lunch around my birthday. My birthday is October 17th. And October 14th, I made a reservation at Tony D's in the city, and I invited their family, and it was one of the best days of my life. It was such a powerful moment. I have a beautiful relationship with the mother. I talk to her every few months for like 3 or 4 hours. I found out more about Missy. Her kids, they received me. They told me that they love me. And I couldn't even believe it, because look at their end of it. I'm looking, "Oh my god, they lost their mom," and here I am. I could see, like, I could understand if someone would be like, "I don't wanna meet you. My mother's dead." I can imagine someone, like, feeling that way, so that's why I had to write that letter to really show them how much. You have no idea how much. And when I talked to the mother, she said, Sharon, I didn't even realize when I was making that decision, like, that it actually really was saving a life." You can understand that. She's devastated. She's shocked. Her daughter said, where did this come from? Like, not really even comprehending. And I just, I attended her 70th birthday, her mom, and I'm connected with her kids on Facebook, and just recently, they just really welcomed me so much and appreciated me, and I gave them some gifts and just appreciate like little necklaces of, things that say pride and strength and courage, and always I just feel like I just owe them my life, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing that, I mean, when we first met, my brother and sister came with me, and we had to, like, we knew each other for years, and it was funny, we were, like, cracking jokes and, like, getting along, and there was emotional moments, but, like, overall, it was a beautiful, fun event, and I consider their family, a second family to me. It's really just amazing.
I feel like there's no accidents, right?
Yeah.
This was all so when you hear this story from beginning to end, you really do see the beautiful way the mind orchestrates reality. You knew you were going to live, and then
Yeah.
all the universe conspired for that to happen, including a woman whose family maybe needed her spirit to live on in a different way. And so that donor was then the one brought to you so that her family would have a chance to still be connected to her in a very special way. It just goes all
And yes, it's so
around.
amazing, and here's a really interesting thing that people don't know. There's a Facebook group called Liver Transplant Survivors, and in it, people who are either waiting for a transplant or already have one. So many patients, survivors, have said they have taken on characteristics of their donor, either personality-wise or food-wise. Now, I love music, I love dancing, I love all this kind of stuff. I had just, in my journey, I started listening to gospel music. I never really listened to gospel music before, and, I believe in God, but, it was like gospel music, and I started really enjoying it, and there was one particular song by Marvin Sapp called "Never Woulda Made It," and I listened to that song, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is exactly what happened to me." I went on Missy's Facebook page, and I looked at one of her posts, and she is singing that song.
Yeah. It's chills, right?
And I said, "Oh my god."
Woof.
I said, "Oh my god, there is clearly this is so bizarre." Here, I never listened to that kind of music, and that specific song she is singing. So,
Yeah.
okay, that's no coinky dink. We take on it's just something that can't really explain it. I don't know, but it happens to many, many people.
Everything is energy. Absolutely
Oh
everything
god,
is
yeah.
energy. Your organs are energy, your energy, the meat suit is everything's energy.
Yeah,
But the imprint, that that's what it is. Our energetic signatures imprint on everything that we create, everything that we interact with, and the body is created, right?
right?
So that just stands to reason that anything that would move into somebody else's body would still have the original imprint and codes of the creator.
Yeah.
So that I love, that's what I love that story and the idea with the song because people don't
I
realize
know, I'm like,
how,
yeah, and believe
yeah,
me, I'm not, I'm a skeptic sometimes, I'm not all, all the woo-woo. I feel like I'm a woo-woo realist, you know, but I believe in there's things that happen.
yes, and this interconnectedness that people speak about because they know it on a surface level, but truly, truly, the heart, it connects us. The Heart Math Institute has done research on this, right? Where the heart actually, I think it's 3 feet out, can pulls in information energetically and projects, as well. And so when we think about that, your energy speaks before you walk in the room. Your light shines all over, not just here, not just here. It's projecting constantly. So it's not a surprise at all that you would have this gracious gift because Patricia gave you that gift, really. What I also love about that is that the mother is the one that created the body and then ultimately decided to save another body with the body of her daughter, which
I
is
know.
such a gift.
No, I know it. I know it.
And we're always taught to believe that death is the worst thing that could ever happen. But the bottom line is death is going to happen to everyone. That's
Right.
part of the earth experience.
Yeah.
The question is, how do we see it? Do we see it as an offering back to the earth, or an offering to another human, or taking a situation that may have been super painful and tragic for a family and turning it into this beautiful second chance at life for another family?
Right.
So
Right.
it's just, life is all how we think it.
Yeah, it's the same exactly. And how you approach things, like we mentioned before, how do you approach your disease? How do you greet it? How do you talk to it? How do you communicate with it? With everything. And then how do I receive this gift of life? I'm receiving again, and I'm telling you, it is so profound that I just am so amazed that I'm like, okay, I am walking around on this earth because I have Missy's liver in me. When you actually really think of how that is, it's just unbelievable. And there's such I received the gift of life. I never thought in a million years it would ever happen to me. But one thing I didn't expect is how inspiring it is to people. That's probably the biggest gift. And that's why now I am a mentor to help other people. I have to give back.
I love everything about this story, and I love the fact that you are a storyteller. And so it was no accident that this story happened to you, because storytellers are the ones that know how to take that pain and turn it into power, and then use it to inspire, inform, and entertain others, which is what you're ultimately doing with your story. And on that note, my dearest friend, we are running out of time, but how can people contact you, or what are you up to next that people can come see you, or if there are people who are interested in talking to you a little bit more about this?
The best way to reach me is either through Instagram. My Instagram is SRS Artist, and they can send me a DM on there, or they could go to Facebook, go to Sharon Spear, Speer, and send me a DM and, explain whatever it is they have a question about. I'm happy to answer any questions. If, any kind of resources, anything that I can recommend books, I can recommend Facebook groups, anything that's going to help, any little tidbits. So that's probably the best way to reach me.
Sharon, once again, thank you for being on Call Cut with Angélique. You have a beautiful spirit and soul. We are all happy that you are here, and that the power of your mind kept you hyper focused on the fact that you not only were you going to live, but you were going to get a second chance at life.
Oh, thank you so much. It really warms my heart. And if I can reach one person to help them feel better about where they are, anything, that's the greatest gift I can receive.
Thank you so much for joining me on Call Cut with Angélique. New episodes drop every Friday. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share with your friends. And remember, folks, no matter what life gives you, you must always keep shining.